Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the TBScouts Podcast. I'm here with the legendary Coach Moe of the Next Level Raiders. Coach Moe, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Thank you, Boris, first for having me out here today. I appreciate it. My name is Maurice Harrison, probably better known to most of you guys as Coach Moe with the Next Level Raiders. One of the older organizations in San Antonio. We've been around since 2006. Really taken a lot of pride in trying to develop from the grassroots level young gentlemen and do the best that we can to give them opportunities to, as we say, play at the next level.
Cool. Well, I have a couple of questions lined up for the show today, so
Sure.
We'll go ahead and jump right into it. For starters, just tell me a little bit about your organization.
Sure.
And I already kind of know a little bit about it, but a little bit more in depth, because there's been a couple of, and some of the things I'm thinking about is like age ranges, because you go down to like 8-year-olds sometimes and all the way up. So give us a good overview of just your organization.
I guess as short as we can. Again, we're old, I'll tell you, but I think one of the things I think that separates our organization from anyone else's is all of our coaches are paid and trained, and not just that, they're all current or former high school coaches or middle school coaches. They actually coached at some level. So I was a high school coach for 15 years. I currently coach middle school ball, but all of our coaches, for example, right now, 3 of our coaches are still in their high school season. We won't get them back until they're done. My original background, I worked at a wonderful place, Home Court America. Most people from San Antonio, you would be aware of it. It was one of the first big basketball facilities out here doing training AAU teams, et cetera. And so I worked there for 6 years. And so during that time, all I did was private lessons, camps, clinics, worked with some really good people. Walter Kramer, legend in San Antonio. His coaching tree is really long. Worked underneath him. And then I got into the coaching aspect. So my original background was skill development. And so we kind of carried that into our program. When I started, it was just not to be coaching, to be a combination of the two, to where we're actually able to develop skills and then have coaches. So I guess the part for me was the challenge was finding those coaches and then developing them to be skills trainers, and not just coaches, because everybody can't do both, which I think is a misconception or a misunderstanding some people have. Being able to develop players and coach players isn't the same. It's not. They're two separate things, and people have to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. I was fortunate. My original background again was development, and then I got into coaching later. So I think it gave me a unique combination of both. But speaking on our program, I think some of the things I'm most proud of. Our first class graduating was 2016. And since then, we're going to have over 20 plus kids that have gotten into college. We'll know that number here as this graduating class finishes up, but we're looking at over 25, I think, by the time we're done. But what we do, as I mentioned, our coaching staff, is we truly develop. We start from first grade all the way up to 12th. And I'm not going to say I don't recruit, but I'm not a big recruiting guy. Like, I'm not going to be walking around the gym or at your middle school game. You're not going to see me. I'm not going to be there trying to pick your player. We already have those guys. We developed them in first, second, third, and fourth grade. They're on the team already. And we take pride in developing those guys. And we've done really well with that. And with that format, we've had 4 graduating classes that we've had 4 kids ranked in the top 100. So those are the things I'm really proud of, is just the system and being consistent with it. Sometimes we have really good graduating classes, and sometimes they're not as good as those higher level classes that we have. But we're proud of all of them because they've all stuck with us, and we've been committed to them as well. The class that we have this year is, we don't have any D1s or D2s in there, but we got a couple of NAIAs and D3s, and I'm really proud for that. I know there's some guys that are ranked above those guys that don't have offers, and those guys stay committed to us, and we worked hard for them to give them an opportunity to continue to play on. So I guess that's long or short about our organization. Truly a developmental program from the bottom up. Coaches are going to take a lot of pride in what they're doing in your development, and not just the development of that, but making them into young men. A lot of the guys that graduate from us, I still have relationships with a lot of them. We talk to them all the time.
So that's good that you work with players anywhere from first grade all the way up to 12th grade. Just for the average parent that's out there, and there's been a couple of parents that have called me with like 8-year-old kids, and they say, "Do you know what team?" They keep calling me because they must see my website, and I've referred a couple to you. But what does a parent need to do if they have a child that's anywhere from 8 years old to 17 years old and they want to learn more about your program or even sign up? Like, how do they get in touch with you? How do they sign up? How do they learn more about your organization?
Yeah, so a couple ways. You can reach us on our website or any one of our social media pages. So our website is nextlevelraiders.com. You can contact me or text me directly at 210-859-8097, or you can just look on our Facebook page, Next Level Raiders, our Instagram, Twitter, message us directly, and myself or one of our coaches will get back to you. It's always free to try out. Excuse me, we've never charged for tryouts. One of the things we're real big on is I want long-term commitment, and the way to get that is I want you to be happy. I don't want you to be in our program because you had to invest $1,500 and now you're stuck the next 4 months and you're miserable. We want you to come try out the program, make sure it's a good fit for you, and then once you say, hey, this is something I like for my child, then we ask you to make a commitment to the program. But at no point for trying out, and if that takes you 2 or 3 tryouts, I'm fine with that. I'd rather you take 2 or 3 tryouts to make sure this is someplace you want to be home at than be half in and half out. So the commitment is huge. I think the teams that we've had that have been the most successful have been committed parents. It starts there. It starts there, and that trickles down to the kids. So you can reach us at those sites, and we're open. We're 12 months out the year. So our elementary, middle school kids continue to play throughout the season. During the high school season, we kind of shut those guys down, but we do have teams for kids that are, say, maybe not getting a lot of playing time on their high school team. Maybe you were cut from your high school team. We do still have those teams going out throughout the year. But now our varsity guys, we don't have them continue to play through their school season. But we do have training for that level. And that's another thing, like I mentioned with my original background being skill development. We have the Dr. Dish shooting machine. We have those shooting clinics going on typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do our high-level skill training on Sundays. And then we have some other training on Fridays for all levels. So we're working with kids from bottom to the top. You never know who that guy's going to be. As me and you were watching our guy Stanley Amunde today. Stanley wasn't the best player on his team in elementary or middle school. Now he's playing in the SEC.
Nice. So, and I guess kind of touching base on some of the practices and trainings that you have. I've been to a few of your practices and trainings, and they're good. So I like the way that you run those. So, one question that I get asked by a lot of parents, like whenever they're looking for a team, is like, what end of town are you on, or where do you practice, or where do you train? So, can you maybe answer that?
Here's what we've tried to do. I know everybody likes convenience. They do, and we would love everything to be convenient to us, but I think what's real big on this and in basketball is what are you willing to sacrifice for convenience? And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people or parents make that decision to sacrifice development for convenience. And I don't think you should ever do that. Now, back to our locations. We have Providence High School, which is located downtown. We have the court, which is located off of Judson Road. Then we have the Court of Legends, which is located off of in the Helotes area. So basically what we offer are 2 practices per week. You're going to get 1 practice per week at 2 out of those 3 gyms. So what I tell people is, hey, hopefully one day I get you close. Maybe the other day you drive a little bit more. But what I am confident in is our track record of developing kids is worth whatever inconvenience that 15 extra minutes adds to your drive.
Mm-hmm. And I think we know in San Antonio that gym space is hard to get anyways.
Right.
So I'm sure any parent, if they've ever tried to reserve gym space on their own, they probably have not been able to do that. So you can't really be picky
and that's
and
the
stuff
other
like
thing
that.
I think that we offer too is consistency. We don't. Your practice is going to be in the same 2 days. You're going to be at this gym that day, or say Tuesday, the other gym on Thursday, and it's not going to change. We're not going to be switching your gyms around, your times, your days. You're going to be those same 2 days. So we're real big on consistency with us. Being a large organization, we're always somewhere between 17 to 20 teams. Change isn't always good. Messing around with one day on the schedule affects a lot of other people. So we're really consistent with your times, organized with your schedule. Schedules are made 2 to 3 months in advance, and we're considerate of that to the parents. Especially if we're asking you for the type of commitment that we're asking, we need to be able to give you the opportunity to give that commitment back. So we take a lot of pride in being organized.
And for the parents, what are some questions that a parent should ask whenever they're looking for organizations? Because we know, and I'm going to kind of tee this up, we know that there's several club, or AAU organizations, whatever you want to call them, here in San Antonio. Sometimes they approach parents and players and kind of go after them. So they may not know, but what are some things that a parent should be open-minded to and think about and not just take the first team that comes at them? What are some questions that they should ask?
Well, I think it was real big for any parent. I think what you're looking for, and it depends on the levels, but I think especially as you're young, I'll speak specifically for 8th grade and below. As high school, you're looking for more exposure, but say 8th grade and below, your focus has got to be development. And I say this, and I'll tell you, the reason why you see people at your middle school games recruiting your kid is because they haven't developed players. That's why they're there. If you develop players, you're not at middle school games looking for them. You've developed them. So I would be leery of someone walking around the gym in your 7th and 8th grade game that's trying to recruit your child. It would make me question their resume of development. Because if you're developing players and you're there recruiting players, that means you're trying to replace somebody that you have already. So to your question, I think questions that parents should ask is a record of development. Where can I see how you are developing kids, where kids are getting better? And that's not always going to college. I know sometimes we all look at the bar right now as making college. That's not always the bar. I went to senior night for one of our players, Cooper, just last week, and he's been in our program since 2nd grade. He played 4 years of high school basketball, and I'll be honest with you, he's not the most athletic, fastest guy in our program, but he's a hard worker, and I'm proud of our program playing a part in his development. Would we like everybody to be a Division I athlete? We would, but they're not. But I think I'm using Cooper as an example, coming to our program early, he was given a fundamental foundation, and it allowed him to go on and have 4 good years of high school basketball. I know in today's era of everybody's going to college or wants to go to college, we're under a real misconception because we're not. It's really hard. We spend 2 days on transfer portals and grad transfers and all of that stuff, but it's much harder than what people think. So if you're made it to the final 12 to 15 guys on a high school roster that probably started out with over 100 trying out, I consider that successful. But that's not a failure. That doesn't mean you had a bad basketball career. 100 other people tried out. You're one of the last men standing in that, and I think that's something to be praised. So again, back to the parent thing, though, I think is a record of development. Like, you need to see a track record of how this program is developing kids, helping them make their middle school teams, high school teams. Things we've had taken a lot of pride in is having freshmen make varsity. Is that always the goal? No, but I think if we get kids early, put them in the program, and they learn higher basketball IQ to where they're able to play varsity as a freshman, which is half the battle, not just the skill set. Have you been in a program that's taught you offenses and defense that translate to high school level? That's one of the things we rather pride ourselves in, is developing kids to give them the opportunity to be in a position to play varsity as freshmen. We've had a lot of success with that. We've had a lot of kids that have done that, but I think that's a credit to our system and all of our coaches in putting them in training tournaments to help and assist in that development. So again, I think the big thing for parents too is qualifications of the coaches. I take a lot of pride in being a coach. I studied hard for it, worked for it, trained under it. I think now we're in an era where whoever picks up a whistle and says I like the Spurs is coaching your child this weekend. I think that's unfortunate. It doesn't mean that person can't be a good coach, but I think that parents should be doing much more research on that person's actual qualification to give themselves the title of a coach. I had a steak last night. I'm not qualified to perform surgery on anyone.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And like you said before, you used to be a high school coach, right. And a lot of the coaches within your organization are high school coaches as well. Hmm. And I know that being a high school coach, that's a prestigious title to have and to obtain. And, that's kind of the start of everyone that, a lot of these coaches that make it to the NBA and coach, they had to start off being high school coaches. So it's not easy to become a high school coach or a coach at any level. I know you're coaching right now, middle school, but coaching anything as a career, you had to compete with other people. You made the cut, and people put a lot of trust in you. And from what I've seen, you do a great job.
I appreciate it. Well, I'm a little off our topic there, but I'll say I think that something else it gave me was a respect for coaches, high school coaches, because I've been where they are, and it's helped me build relationships to where I'm when the kids make our team, I communicate with your high school coach. What position do you see him at next year? What are you looking for him development-wise? And we're able to work on the same page, because there is a disconnect between AAU and high school, but I think having been in that profession, I can communicate with them to see how we can both work together at developing the kids. Again, another topic maybe for another day, but definitely something that needs to be better is the connection between AAU and high school coaches, because we're all wanting what's best for the kid. I just don't think we're always on the same page. Mm-hmm.
Well, you're doing a tremendous service if you're just talking to the high school coach, because there's a couple of players that I work with who they don't have the courage to even talk to their high school coach. So it's good that they can have someone like
Right.
you that is an advocate for them.
Right.
To just let the high school coach know that, look, this kid is trying a little bit harder than maybe other kids on the team.
Right.
Because we both know that when you look at a high school roster, some of those kids are just there to have fun.
Right.
And some kids actually want to get a college scholarship.
Right.
And some kids want to play basketball in college. And they want to, maybe even play beyond college. And then you got kids that just, there's levels to this. They don't,
Right.
So the fact that you can go up to a coach and say, look, coach, this kid right here is actually trying to play college ball. I don't know if you go as far as saying, make sure he gets play time and stuff like that. But, some of these coaches may not be giving kids play time and not even know that, like, look, because I'll give you an example. There's, some players out there that are seniors right now, unsigned seniors, trying to get a college scholarship, and their high school coaches are not giving them minutes, not really playing them in the right way. And some people can say, well, they don't get minutes because they can't play. That's not the case with some of these players that I'm thinking of right now. They can play. They're athletic.
Right.
They can defend. But coaches aren't giving them minutes. And it's like, look, coach, this is the kid's last year.
Right.
He needs to get as much exposure as he can. How come you're not playing him? And another topic for another day when it comes to high school coaching is sometimes I see these high school coaches coaching like they don't care if they win or lose. Some of the rotations that are being used, some of the kids that are not being played and not being played, I'm like, are y'all trying to win games or is this some other agenda going on? But we're going to save that. That's a little spicy. We're going to save that for another day. But going back to your original thing of talking to the coaches on the kids' behalf is a very good thing. We touched base on tryouts. Do you have some tryouts going on right now, some dates or something like that?
We're currently in tryouts for all levels. You can find that information on our website. It's all listed on there for the grade. So, again, if you missed tryouts for this month, we're a 12-month program. You can come out at any time at no charge. But we do currently have our high school boys, which is real big, coming up here now for this summer. Our high school boys currently have tryouts, and again, that's no charge. They start up this Sunday. They'll be at Providence High School. That's located there on North St. Mary's in Brooklyn.
Sunday as in tomorrow?
Yep, as in tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow they'll be going 6:30 to 8. If for any reason you're not able to make it tomorrow, they'll be the following Sunday as well, from 6:30 to 8, both at Providence High School. And like I said, if for any reason you missed those two tryouts, we're a 12-month program. You're welcome to come out at any time.
Great. So just to reiterate that then, you're having tryouts tomorrow.
Correct.
6:30 to 8 at Providence.
At Providence.
If people want to go, they can reach out to you. You gave your phone number and website. I know that you're on all the social medias. So on Instagram, it's NL Raiders.
Correct.
They can just send you a DM or
Send us
message.
a direct message, and if not, if you don't contact us, you're still able to show. All you need is a basketball and something to drink. And like I said, we're going to give these kids two chances, try to give them the best opportunity to show themselves, and we have different levels. What we do is we have our elite level, which is going to be our top travel team, which is going to be basically focused on exposure and featuring kids that get the opportunity to get in college. Our select team, which is hopefully at that near level of that elite group, giving them that same opportunity. And then we have what's called our black team, which is going to be, say, comprised of guys that are potential varsity players, looking close to getting that, maybe JV guys. And depending on the level of that team, it will start off local. If it's given the ability or shows the ability to play at a higher level, then we put them on the road. Then we're going to have our red team, which is going to be primarily comprised of, say, your freshmen, kids that played freshman basketball. So we have a level for everybody. Now, we don't do, say, the grade thing in high school. It's similar to high school where we just put the best players on the floor at different levels. So if you're a freshman and you're good enough to play varsity, then you get that opportunity, or our top elite team, then you get that opportunity. So again, it makes it really competitive, and we don't do the locked in stone rosters. Every February we have these tryouts. Everybody retries out for the position. Whether you've been with us 5 years, 6 years, we retry out and give everybody the opportunity to earn their position. And I think by making things competitive, it makes everyone better. And our kids look forward to it. As much as I know they're nervous, as some of them are waiting on their rosters to come out now, they all look forward to tryouts.
So your top tier elite team, what are some of the things that, what are some of the events you guys play in? Like what kind of circuits, what type of things do you do for your top tier elite team?
Right. So our top groups, we do primarily a lot of GASO events. I think Blue and his staff do a phenomenal job of promoting kids, putting them on the right courts to get the opportunities to get exposure and be seen in front of scouts. In addition to that, things are getting a lot better with our situation with COVID. This year, we're looking to get back onto the road. We'll be going to Vegas. Now, in the past, we've done the Fab 48. I know they've changed their name. I'm just kind of going to do some more research on events as to which one we'll be looking to do into July. But yes, we're looking forward. I would say we do a lot of the GASO events we've done. And then, with our younger teams, we do travel as well. They'll do the NOLA Super 60, AAU national type events, spring icebreaker coming up here. So we do a lot of the high level events to give our kids, not just a chance for exposure, but the opportunity to see what else is out there. Basketball's so big. You got to do a better job of getting outside of San Antonio. And it's not necessarily say win or lose, but giving your kids a chance to see that there's something else out there.
Yeah. You mentioned the Icebreaker, which that's the RCS Sports event in Houston.
Correct.
And I think that's a great event. Houston's not that far away from San Antonio. Gives kids some exposure to some outside teams and competition. So that's a pretty good value add. All right. Kind of switching topics.
Sure.
You and I, we just watched one of your players play, Stanley Mude. He plays right now for University of Arkansas. They just played. They had the game at 3. I saw the first half of that game. I didn't see the end of it. When I stopped watching, Arkansas was ahead. Did they end up winning that game?
They ended up pulling it out. They did. Good win for them. Good win. Yeah.
Nice. So talk to us a little bit about Stanley. So he played for you. He's from San Antonio, and it was cool. I watched. You told me you were going to watch that game, so I tuned in, and it's cool to see a kid that from San Antonio, and I've met him at some of your practices and stuff like that. But it's cool to turn on national television and see a kid starting on a big team, playing on TV, getting minutes. He was like, every time I was watching, he was playing like the whole game.
30+ minutes tonight. I'm not sure what it was, but he played. I think he came out 2 minutes the first half. Excuse me. He played heavy minutes tonight. But Stanley is. I still always call him a kid because I still see little Stanley. I don't see that big guy, but. Special player, he came to us as 6th grade in our program. In Stanley's mind, he's always been the best player in our program, which is the confidence you see today. But he wasn't. He was actually the second shortest kid on our team until 9th grade. Stayed committed to our program, continued to work. I don't think Stanley really had a consistent starting position until about 9th grade. He was in and out of the starting lineup, fighting for his minutes in his role. And stuck with us like he did. He stayed committed to the program. And then, as his sophomore year, Stanley started getting a little better. And he had a nice little growth spurt that changed some things for him, and we started having him play up. And so Stanley didn't get a lot of notoriety or exposure because he was put into a role. And things were tough. Stanley rode with me and stayed in hotels, so games were over for most of the guys. He had to listen to my critique while he was giving up baskets to top 100 players that were a year older than him. So that's a true story. But he got to play up, and I think it helped him. I really think it did. And not just that he played up with, like I said, a team that had guys that were ranked in the top 100. And so he just had to fight hard for his minutes and his role, and he did that. And then unfortunately as he came to the end of career, going into his junior year, he had a couple of just freak injuries, with a broken leg or broken wrist. So going into his last year to get exposure for tournaments, he only got to play 3 tournaments. As crazy as that sounds, I think he ended up with about 7 offers still. Ended up with about 7 offers out of that. And I know sometimes people see where he is now and they're kind of like, well, I didn't get anything bigger. I'm like, man, the kid's situation was pretty tough, man. He literally played 1 tournament and we had 2 live dates, and that was it. That was his only chance for exposure there going into the end. But a story I've told, and I'll tell it again, is that 1 tournament we played was the worst basketball I've ever seen Stanley play. And so as we're riding off and we're leaving, and I asked him, I was like, next weekend we're headed to Vegas. And I'm like, hey, Stan, you're going to be okay? I'm fine. I'm good. I'm confident. And I'm sitting there like, dude, that was terrible. And I'll never forget that. Next game, he goes 7 for 7 from the 3-point line that first game in Vegas. And even today, I watched Stan play, and he didn't have his best shooting day, but I could see he continued to have his confidence, and his growth is just phenomenal. To see the way he defends now, something that I hadn't seen from him in the past. And I'm sorry, I kind of jumped over some things, but he went on to South Dakota, ended up getting a scholarship offer there to South Dakota, which I think at the time was the right fit for him. It was a great, phenomenal staff. Two of my favorite guys, and Coach Smith and Eric Peterson, as far as recruiting goes, but phenomenal staff. And I thought they were really honest with Stanley, did a good job of helping in his development. And he went on to end up being the 9th leading scorer in the nation at South Dakota, and then transferred to the University of Arkansas. His recruitment, leaving out of South Dakota was unreal. He ended up with over 40 offers, all high major, over 40. I mean, I put on one hand the top schools that didn't offer him, and it wasn't many. I mean, he had a lot of offers. Anybody who's ever been recruited by Coach Moe, you'll know he's a different kind of guy, man. It just made it really hard for him to turn down. And I think at that stage that Stanley was at, for this point, fit was everything. I think kind of to his life and role, things didn't start off very easy at Arkansas. He had to grind and work hard to get his role, and now he's a starter playing 30-plus minutes and doing really well. Again, tonight wasn't his best shooting night, but again, he's had some really big games, 31-point games in the SEC. He's averaging, 14 points a game, 5 assists, shooting 43% from three. Just a phenomenal story, I think, for that kid. And the other thing that we're blessed and fortunate to have, and he comes back to our program. Like you said, you got to see him this summer. He does camps and clinics for our kids. He's around the kids all the time. He's in the gym. He's always working. Our guys get that opportunity to see, what a high-level athlete puts in work-wise. Stanley's doing 2 or 3 workouts a day. And our high school guys and our younger kids are there to see that. And that's the other thing we have, is the benefit of not just Stanley, but all of the kids that have come through our program. Nick, those guys all come back and give back to our kids. And our younger guys get to watch and see kids that are doing the things they want to do.
So about Stanley, I have kind of like 3 things that I want to ask you about or mention. One thing on the game today for Stanley, you mentioned that it wasn't one of his best shooting nights. I saw in the beginning, he missed a couple of 3-pointers. Yeah. But one thing that I did notice about Stanley is he noticed that when he wasn't hitting those, he started driving. And he used his big body to get inside and get those buckets. He had a nice and one. So he's a smart player that, he knows he can score from beyond the arc and inside the paint. So that's great. Yeah. Secondly, I just want to say something about his character. He's so humble. When I went, to some of your trainings, and I've interviewed Stanley, a couple of times, and he's like so humble. Right. And then it's like you look on the big screen and you see this kid, like you hear the announcers talking about him, and they were going over some of his stats today. I think they said he was like 50%. On I don't know if it was from 3 or field goals or something.
43% from 3. He's been on fire. Again, tonight wasn't his day, but he has been shooting the ball really well in SEC play. And again, this can't even go without mentioning, but Stanley's mom is a special lady, man. She's tough. She's just a little firecracker. Has done a phenomenal job of raising Stanley, molding him into a fine young man and teaching him good morals. I can remember going to pick up Stanley for a tournament, and his mom sitting at the door apologizing to me while he's pushing the lawnmower that he can't leave until he finishes mowing the yard. And I'm like, we got to go to Houston, buddy. You got me standing over while you're mowing the yard. But she's just done a good job of raising him the right way, and you see it in his character. I think Stanley's done a phenomenal job of, what I would say, keeping his nose clean, staying out of trouble, being around the right people, and even as you look on his social media, I think he conducts himself the right way, which a lot of kids don't nowadays. I think he's done a good job of presenting himself right.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, when Stanley was a senior in high school, did he play for your organization? Mm-hmm. And the reason why I asked is because we see where some of these players that get like big name offers, they have to be recruited by like a shoe team. Right. So like they'll play for a local organization up until like their junior year, and then their senior year or halfway during their senior year, or actually I guess it would be your junior summer. They get recruited by like a shoe team, and then they get that exposure. But that's pretty cool that Stanley was able to get those offers, and he played for the Next Level Raiders his entire high school career.
All the way through. He finished with us, and of course, Stanley's 6'6", 200+ pounds. He had offers from circuit team and shoe teams, and we never really went too much. Again, you got to keep me and Stanley are really close. I had the kids since 6th grade. We were riding cars together, a lot of talks. But he was recruited by circuit teams, and he chose to stay committed and stick with us, and we're definitely grateful for that. But again, myself, I'm a San Antonio basketball guy. I don't believe you have to leave San Antonio to find that high level. I'll say it, and I think it needs to be said. I think one of the problems that we have in San Antonio is we allow our children or our players to be taken from other cities. Houston and Dallas can come right down here, plant roots, start their whole organization, take our kids and have them play for their teams. I don't know any teams from San Antonio that have organizations in Houston or Dallas, but we allow that to happen here. So I see a lot of people, they'll speak and complain about San Antonio basketball isn't this or it isn't that, but we got kids with Houston on their chests shouting out 210. It doesn't go together. I think that there are quality, and I'm not even saying mine, I think there's quality programs that are putting kids in college that you can stick around with here locally in the city and receive that. And again, I'm a San Antonio basketball guy, so I'm all for the development of San Antonio basketball. Now, again, everybody do what they feel is best for them, but I want to see the city do well. I want to see the high school teams do well at all levels, and I believe that. And again, everybody may not feel that way, but I believe there's a lot of talent here. I just think that a lot of it leaves, and I don't think that happens anywhere else. What's wrong with us that we allow that to happen? I'm not sure. I don't know, exactly what that reason is, but I think we've allowed a lot of our talented players to be taken away.
I think it's just miseducation. I think a lot of parents don't understand, or they're sold dreams. But you're right. I think another thing that's interesting about San Antonio is we're a lot smaller market than Houston and Dallas.
Right.
But something else that I'm kind of thinking of is we've got more club teams than good players.
Without a doubt. As I look at when we started, way back, I could count the teams at one hand, and then it got to two. Now every time I walk in the gym, there's a new team, and it has definitely depleted the pool of talent, and it's hurt us. It has. So I think that's where. And I think a lot of times everybody wants to bash AAU basketball. And I know this is going to make me the bad guy for saying it, but I'm going to say it. Parents got to do their research. No one put little Billy on that bad team but you. You can't blame that organization for being bad. Maybe they were. But somebody made a choice to put Billy on that organization. Parents got to do their research. And they really do, and ask questions. And I encourage them to ask those coaches those hard questions. I can still remember when I was young and I took offense to this. Someone asked me, well, who have you gotten into college? It's a valid question. If I'm going to trust you to get my child into college, I need to know who you've gotten into college. And there are people right now that have I wish these organizations the best, and there are some that I can tell you right now that are on track to do it the right way, but there's some that aren't. And I think that's a valid question that some of these parents need to be asking is, who have you gotten in college? And if not anybody, what is your plan to be able to help my child get into college? Because then what unfortunately happens is, the organization gets bashed, but the organization maybe wasn't at that level to get your child in college. I don't think that's necessarily the organization's fault. Somebody chose to be a part of that. So I think it's really important that those parents ask those hard questions if you think you have a college athlete. And that's with truly understanding how hard it is to go to college today. It's much harder. As we mentioned briefly there, you have your transfer portal, you have your grad transfers, you have your prep school kids. And just, when no one's going to really tell you, to be honest, I got coaches I've had relationships with for years. And I call them and they tell me, I'm not recruiting a freshman for 3 years, coach. That's tough. Mm-hmm. That's tough. And I think the organizations need to be honest with kids and parents at this point as we are into this recruiting and not sugarcoating things.
And just to kind of pause you for the parents that may not understand what you mean when you said they're not recruiting freshmen for the next 3 years, it's probably because of how many good grown men candidates are inside of the transfer portal. Right. So why would you recruit a 17 or 18-year-old boy who weighs 150 pounds when you can recruit a 20-year-old kid who's been developed? So again, that's not saying anything bad against the high school players, but unlike some of the high school coaches like I was talking about earlier, these college coaches have to win. Their livelihood is on the line. Right. So they have to recruit the best players. And right now you can go to transfer portals and you can find very good athletes. So that's good information that to know, because these high school seniors or high school players that think that they're going to go to a top, D1 school and start and all of that, just due to the sheer fact that there's plenty of good candidates that are older and stronger and bigger than them in the portal. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but just for those that may have didn't understand like why they're not going to be recruiting for the next 3 years, but
it's going to be tough, and I think organizations need to be honest with parents. Like, if you're with the organization right now at the high school level and they haven't spoken to you about the changes in recruitment, you might want to start looking for another one, because they're not being honest with you. You're going to get to the end of this road and not really understand the situation that you're in. So, when we finish up our tryouts here at these next 2 Sundays, that's the first thing we're going to talk to our parents about, is the change in the landscape of recruiting. It's just much tougher. And you touched on something. I know a lot of people like it or dislike it, but the reality of it is, these guys you see on TV, they get paid a lot of money. Their jobs are on the line, and they're in win now mode. And do you wait for an 18-year-old to develop, or you find you a kid that has 2 years of ACC experience, maybe didn't play too much, but is hungry and ready to go, and his body's developed and understands college level sets, plays, offenses, and defenses. And that's the reality of where we are now. So I think that, again, can you still do it? Obviously, like I said, we're looking at probably 3 to 4 kids getting into college this year, but we got to be honest with kids and parents that it's going to be harder to go to your Division I levels, harder to go to your Division II levels. Can you do it? Absolutely, but it's just going to be harder, and that just requires more work ethic on the kids and more work ethic on your coaches and parents. Again, some responsibility falls on you being more selective in that organization that you're choosing to give your kid that right opportunity.
I want to go back and touch on something you mentioned about, like, what is the AAU program or club program going to do to help the kid get into college? And you mentioned already that you have, good relationships with college coaches and stuff like that. But another thing that I kind of want to talk about is some of these, and so for like some of your players that you're trying to help go into college, like, we know that if you want to get recruited, you have to do things like send out emails, make phone calls. There's no secret to recruiting. You got to do that. So it should be up to the kids and the parents. They should be sending out emails. And it's funny how many players I talk to. It's like you have these players that will go, they've been playing basketball their whole life. Now they're seniors in high school. They've been telling themselves that they want to play college basketball. And it's funny because I work with several players. And I'm not saying these are my guys, but I asked the kid, it's funny how many kids are like, okay, yeah, you want to play college basketball? Well, can you give me a list of like 10 schools that you might want to think about playing at, so that we can start emailing them or calling them? And they're like, I don't know. They can't even come up with a list. So I think players and parents need to start getting serious. And if you say you want to play college basketball, you got to have a game plan. You got to have a list of schools that you're at least thinking about. But also, and maybe you can elaborate on this too, is we know that there are good AAU program directors and there are lazy ones. And some of the lazy ones will just take their kids to these tournaments, just let them play basketball, and then they don't do anything else on the kids' behalf. They don't reach out to coaches. They don't send emails. They don't call and let people know. And it sounds like you do that. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
Well, I know you and I you've done some live stream events and stuff before. So say for our teams, for example, once I'm able to assess where I think our kids are, and we have players that we're trying to get into college, and say we play in the GASO, I'm going to be speaking with schools all month, week, summer on your behalf and sending them your information. Hey, here's what time we play. This is what court we're on. I'm going to make it so easy. All they got to do is show up. They're not going to be having to look at for anything. They can just save what the information has been sent to them, and then they're able to find out what court you're on, where you are. I think that that's what you just mentioned. Is I think a lot of people do that. They show up to these tournaments and they haven't done anything. We're going to put in the work before you arrive into the tournament to have those scouts there, present, and there for you, to give you that opportunity to get seen. And that's what's real big. And I think that's honestly where the pressure comes on your program and your coach. Does your coach have the relationships and the connections to get people to take a look at you? And a lot of that is relationships. Once you've been doing it for a while and schools have a sense of trust in you, and when you call about a guy, they'll come look at him. If you're just a guy on the whim they don't know or don't have a relationship, everybody's telling them how great their player is. Everybody thinks they got the next guy. So it takes a relationship and a sense of trust that's been built between your coach and these schools that'll give them the opportunity to come out and look at you. You talked about the recruiting and what parents can do. I think that's really important. Your coach should be doing his part as far as sending information to schools, promoting you properly on social media. But parents, there's a lot you can do. Parents have the ability to do research and look up schools that you feel are fitting for your kid and do that. So, one of the things I think that's important is we talked about that, how the parents can help, is we're really fortunate in San Antonio that within an hour you can go watch high major basketball, UT. You can go watch mid-major at UTSA. You can go low major Incarnate Word. You can go watch Division II at St. Mary's, NAIA at Our Lady of the Lake. You can go watch Division III at Shriner TLU. You're within an
D2 at St. Edwards.
D2 at St. Edwards. It's like you're the ability to go see all levels of basketball is no more than an hour away from you in San Antonio. And what I tell our kids, before you tell me you go D1, go watch all levels and tell me where you can play. Don't just say, hey, I want to go D1. Go watch all levels. Go watch Division II. Go watch NAIA. And then come back and tell me where you truly fit in. And I recommend that for parents as well, because I know a lot of people I think now kind of turn their nose down to D2 or NAIA, and they don't understand how good that basketball is. There's a lot of D2s that beat D1s. St. Ed's, as we mentioned earlier, it can be done. A lot of D2s are better than D1s, but some people just get stuck on that thinking that's the end-all, be-all of high-level basketball, and it's not.
And also, let's talk about, we don't got to talk about it, but I want to mention JUCO, because there's D1 players that are in JUCO strictly because of their GPA in high school. Yeah. They weren't able, but then they transfer. So people sometimes look down on different levels, like, well, I could go play JUCO. Have you ever seen, like, Trinity Valley? Like, wow.
Right.
And there's, like, even at Temple Junior College, you got people that are transferring to Kansas,
one of our
UTSA.
guards there now, Quentin Coleman, he's a Division II transfer. He's over there putting up 20-something points a game. He can play. You're exactly right. I think a lot of people have the misconception of these levels not being high, but that's because they've never seen them. I think we just kind of have put D1 again as the end-all, be-all, and I think parents and players need to go sit in the gym, watch these levels, and be honest with yourself as to where you can really play. And I think when they do that, they humble themselves. One of the things I tell our guys is everybody says they want to go D1, and does your body look like these guys? Because those are D1 bodies. You can't be D1 with a JUCO body. Your body's got to look like that. And that's where, a lot of the kids, I think, unfortunately, wait till the end to decide I want to have that. That starts your freshman year, working to reach those goals of being a Division II, Division I, or whatever your goal is, and working on your body. You can't wait till you get to the end and start putting in that work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that working out and getting fit, packing on muscle, that's something that you do behind the scenes, and you don't ever really see the immediate gratification from that. But it's definitely important to your athleticism and how you stand up against other players. Yeah. So let's talk about last year's class. I don't think we mentioned that yet. So for your last year's summer team that you had, who are some of the players and where are they at now?
Yeah, that was a special group. I'm gonna make some people mad, but I think the 2021s are the best team we ever had. Our 2016 and 18s will probably want to fight me, but I think the 2021s are special. That group again started off as third graders. So, we start from the bottom and bring them up. From third grade, we finished with 6 of those 9 had been with us since third grade when we finished, and that's something we're always proud of. Is if you put together a good product, then they stay. Of course, people tried to recruit those kids, but they were happy where they were. Their parents were happy with their development, and they stayed. But that group again, graduating wise, I want to make sure I don't leave anybody else off. So we have Josh, our big man that went to O'Connor High School. He ended up over at TLU. G, phenomenal player, was a player of the year in the city of San
Antonio. For people don't know what G stands for.
Gavino Ramos. Yeah, Gavino Ramos was a stud for us. Gavino was been with us ever since third grade. 2-time state champion at Antonian. Phenomenal ball player and great leader. Keelan Johnson ended up over at Oklahoma Christian, a Division II school. JT, one of our young guys, graduated at 17. He's over at IMG Academy. Seth Thomas, he's over at a Division II school, Southern Nazarene. We got Brian Armstrong at Incarnate Word. And then Dalen Whitlock, as I said, Texas State. It's one of our highest level, proudest graduating classes. But solid kids and great parents with work ethic. I think the other thing I'm kind of proud on that one is, and I'll say it because the landscape's changed. Out of all those kids I just mentioned to you that got scholarships, 3 of those guys had to play as unsigned seniors. Out of those 3, 2 went Division I, 1 went Division II. The landscape has changed. Now, if you had asked me years ago, would those guys have to play like that? I would have thought, no way. Their opportunity would have arose. And again, COVID for 2 years really affected that group a little bit more than, some of now as things are getting a little better. But due to that circumstances, their circumstances were different. I think those guys humbled themselves, continued to play during the summer, and the opportunities arose. They arose. They came up for them, and those guys were able to get those opportunities. So I say that for a lot of these guys that I know are frustrated and disappointed as to where their recruiting is right now. It doesn't mean anything personal. It doesn't mean you're a bad basketball player. Things have changed. If you truly believe you're a basketball player, one of the things we say is bet on yourself. If you think you're a college basketball, then play this summer. Swallow your pride. Don't think about being an unsigned senior. If you truly believe you're a collegiate basketball player, play. Bet on yourself.
Why wouldn't you play? If you're trying to play college ball and you don't have any offers, the only way you could do that is by playing somewhere.
Right. And I think there's a lot of talented kids out there. Like, there's some kids I can look at now. I could probably name 5 kids I believe that can play. It's just a matter of them getting the right situation or the right eyes on them.
One thing that I liked that you did for that class of 2021 that you had, which a lot of AAU or club teams, they run away from competition. Mm-hmm. They run away from the smoke. They don't want to play other teams in San Antonio because if they lose, they think it's going to scar their organization, which is another issue that kind of I have with local basketball is nobody, like everybody wants to travel and like spend all this money when you could just be playing against the same, anyways. But one thing that I like that you did with that 2021 class is you got creative. You had your own scrimmages. I remember I filmed you guys playing against Strength and Motion, which, that's a prep school that's here in San Antonio. Those kids are older. Those kids are bigger than the high school kids you had. But I filmed several games that y'all scrimmaged against them, live stream. I'm sure they had coaches watching all of those things, and you did that for your players. So just want to, give you your flowers on that for when you did that during that season.
I know this is hard, and I'll say this for there's young coaches out there, and this is the secret. We always want to win. As you get to certain levels, it's not about winning. As much as we all want to win every single game, but at certain levels, it's just about the performance. One of the things I know is I've never had a scout ever talk to me about the score of the game. We've had kids get recruited, kids done well. No one's ever talked to me about whether we won or lost. It was always that kid's performance. So for me, it's just the opportunity. We played a Southern Assault 2 years ago, number 1 team in the nation. We didn't win. I think we lost by about 17, 18. I had 2 kids. One kid scored 20 plus. Another kid scored like 20 plus as well. We had a great showing. We competed. We played well. And I was proud of that. So a big part of it is I think how you mentioned a lot of people they want to protect their record or fear of losing their kids if people really saw what they were. But that's a part of what is missing in our San Antonio basketball. Again, as you said, we'll all go to these events and end up playing a team from San Antonio, but we could compete against each other better and make each other better. This is me, makes me the old guy. But this event just stopped a few years ago. Daryl Richardson used to do the AAU event, where if you won, you got sponsorship. It was like $500 he would give you. And so everybody in San Antonio would play. In first place got that $500 he would reimburse for your tournament. And then all of a sudden everybody just stopped playing and he had to cancel the event. And, I think that really hurt. I think that's something that the city needed. I think it's something that hopefully we can get back to is just the best of the best playing each other and competing. I think that, there are some events I think that do that and put it together, but it's divided. Again, I don't know how to fix that or what that change is, but I think I would love to see that AAU event come back. I thought it was a great event for the city and an opportunity for kids.
Hey, maybe I'll have to host something like that. Invite all you guys out, and I'll reward like the winners with a steak dinner or something. All right. Well, just to kind of wrap things up, let's talk a little bit about the high school basketball season. I mean, me and I'm sure you too, we're basketball, junkies. I actually know and follow high school basketball a lot more than even college or NBA basketball. It's funny, people are like, you watch basketball? Yeah, but I mainly watch high school basketball. What are some players or some schools or something that you've just seen, or just talk a little bit about kind of the high school basketball within San Antonio?
Yeah. So we go to high school basketball. First person I'm going to mention is Coach Tapp over at Lee High School. Gosh, I don't even know. I think they just made the playoffs for the 4th time in 40 years or whatever it was, or something unbelievable. I think the job that Coach Tapp has done over there, I hope it doesn't go underrated or underappreciated. But I think he's done a phenomenal job of turning that program around. I know a lot of people will just overlook Lee, but I think that's part of the reason why he deserves credit. I think that people have just overlooked that program and overlooked it. And here in a short time, being the head coach there, he's turning it around, and they're in the playoffs. Phenomenal job by him. Seeing the pride he's gotten the kids to take into it, and the commitment to him and believing in him. You know, I still remember the first clip I saw of one of the practices he had, and he had the kids doing defensive slide up a hill. And I sent him a little message just saying, man, you're going old school on them. But, you know, the kids probably don't remember that, but that character building moment for them 2 or 3 years ago is why they're where they are now. So I think Lee program and Coach Tapp has done a phenomenal job of turning that thing around. I wish him the best of success as he goes into the playoffs. Next, you know, I think for a team that's number 1, I think that people just kind of really overlooked is Reagan High School. I think Reagan has just played good basketball, and you know, I don't know level wise there. I know they have Trey, phenomenal player. I love the kid Jackson that they have over there as well. But I think that they just play good basketball. I think that they have a lot of kids that play AAU basketball. None of them are say stars or these on those AAU teams, but you put those guys together and they make a good team, and they're a high level quality basketball team. I think the job Antonian's done as well. I know they had some issues with Santiago and him being declared ineligible, but for them to take that blow and have the season they have, phenomenal job by their team and their coaching staff. I was really impressed. I didn't know how they would bounce back from that, and I know they got 2 freshmen playing really heavy minutes for them with the type of schedule that they play. I think Xavier Martinez deserves a lot of credit. Heck of a job of putting that squad on his back and getting them to the level that they're playing at. So, you know, again, I think those 3 schools I mentioned there are just 3 programs that I think that just really impressed with their work that they've done.
Yeah, and you know, with those schools, just a couple of players just to kind of name drop. Mm-hmm. I know over at Lee, they've got a player, Keyshawn Napoleon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I played that kid in a game of 21, and I beat him. This is like a couple years back, like probably like 2 or 3 years back at the community center.
Yeah, hold on.
I know you remember that, Keyshawn. I know you remember that. But he's been one of those players that like no one. It seems like he's just under the radar, but he's a hell of a player. Like. Mad respect for him. Yeah. Over at Reagan, Reagan is a very great program. Great school. Like you mentioned, Trey Thompson is going to be playing D2 somewhere. I think he's playing at
Dallas Baptist, I believe. Is that right?
I'm not sure. He's playing at the same school that Kendall Dowell's going to, I think. I think so. And then you mentioned Jackson as well. Yeah. Very good players, and they've got a couple other guys. Their names are kind of slipping my mind right now, but yeah, just giving some props to Reagan High School and their coach too, Coach Hirsch, I think his name. He's a great guy. You know, I was over at their campus just the other day, actually for like a JV game, and they were about to play, and you know, Coach was asking me if I needed anything. Yeah. Like, no coach ever asked me that, you know. So, just thank you for being for your hospitality. And then you mentioned Antonian. I know that they are, they are doing great. Yeah. I don't really know too much about the players. I mean, I've seen Xavier Martinez play. I know he can ball. So yeah, 3 good teams. Yeah. But all right. Well, I guess just to kind of wrap up, and again, I want to mention that, you know, you're having tryouts tomorrow.
Yeah, we're tomorrow again, 6:30 at Providence High School. We'll be 6:30 to 8. All you need is a basketball and bring something to drink. Again, it's no charge. For any reason you can't make it this Sunday, we're right back up next Sunday. Same time, same place.
Cool. Well, Coach Moe, thank you very much for coming on the show. Did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to kind of mention just before we sign off?
No, I appreciate you and everything that you're doing, Boris. I know you've done some work for our program and our kids. Again, I know I thanked you during that time when we were in COVID, but I can't thank you enough for the opportunity that you even gave our kids during that time when we didn't know if we could even get eyes on us. Like you pretty much were our only connection to scouts during that time. So we appreciate you and what you're doing for the basketball community. So, hey, I recommend to you guys, if you're looking for a film, guys, you're best in the business.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Appreciate you, bud.
Cool.